So it's been a little while since the last episode was recorded. We had some footage that got lost, and so I have a bit of a recap to show of things that have gotten done in that time. So first of all is the last when we last left, we were working on the gas filtering system here. We have gotten it set up to filter for most of the gases that we need. We have carbon dioxide, chlorine, polluted oxygen, oxygen, and natural gas. We can also set this up to filter for hydrogen and anything else we come across as we proceed. But I'm not super worried about having hydrogen set up yet because most of the hydrogen is going to work its way to the top as we pull it through. But this is still set up so that anything that gets pulled in will stay in the loop until it hits a filter that can do it. So if anything does get sucked into the filter that we don't have set up, it will just wait there until we do something about it. So it's a pretty idiot-proof system, which is good because I have a tendency to screw things up. Also, we set up this gas pump down in here to pull out the last little bits of gases that were not carbon dioxide. We have a couple more that got trapped over here, so we'll leave that pump there so that if they work their way over, we can turn it back on. But for now, it is set to only pump gas if the ambient pressure is below zero, which it can't be, so it's effectively off. This gas pump we set to only pump out gas if it gets above 495 degree or 495 grams of pressure in this tile, which means that it won't pump anything out until some gases settle. And until we start cracking the base open a little more, it may take a little while for gas to work its way over. And that's fine. We don't need to get it filtered out too much. We have been really pulling some of the gas out of the map. This used to have gases pushed all the way up and halfway into our base, and it's worked its way through. So once we get more of the map open and clear, this will be a nice little sink to get all the gases out. As far as where we are sending the gases, they all come up here to this gas processing center, I guess you could call it, with a little bit of problems through the way. We have set up storage for everything we need. So we have our oxygen storage, we have hydrogen storage, and then we have our SPOM that makes hydrogen and oxygen. Currently we have this set to only make more oxygen if we go below the 20,000 grams of oxygen in that tile. So basically, as long as we have enough oxygen to keep pumping out, we're not making any more. We did that because we were running low on water, which we'll get to in a minute. Then we have polluted oxygen, which is just being stored until we set up a place to process it. Same with chlorine, we're just storing it because we may want to use it for some filtration systems to clean our water and things like that. And carbon dioxide, eventually this will get pumped back out and we will feed it down to the bottom of the map so that when we set up slickster farms, we can give them a whole lot of carbon dioxide to chew on. This is our first natural gas geyser that we set up. We still need to get to steel so that we can put in gas pumps in here that will not overheat. But right now this is dormant. It's about to start getting active again soon, but nothing's being pumped out. So we have used up all the natural gas from our storage, and our natural gas power plant is sitting idle. So the base is running off of the coal and the hydrogen that we have. Hydrogen is set up the same way. It only pumps it out if we have more than why I changed that to 3,000. That's not what I wanted it to be. Anyway, we did just to experiment with it. We put a Wheeze Wart in here And now that the gases are going down in volume, it's heated quite a bit back up, but it was keeping us nice and chilly in here. So 1W's work certainly not going to be enough to cool down all of this heat production, but it was fun playing around with it. Okay, so that's our gas storage. Everything is over here. We have our little gas superhighway where all the gases get sorted and come up. We also set the same thing up with our liquid storage. The liquid storing. So we have a pump down here that is clearing out all these mixed liquids. They're getting pumped up into a loop that is exactly the same as the one below. And the filters sorted out into these reservoirs, which then pump out to the various places where we have liquid storage, which is up here in the base. We have a spot for brine, salt water, polluted water, and water, of course. This polluted water pit, after we set it up and cleared all the water out, realized that we had been dropping all of our liquefiables in here, so all the ice melted and created some water in there that we'll have to deal with. Since then, we have changed that, so now the only thing that drops in here is the polluted ice, and then the brine ice falls into the brine pit, and anything that turns into regular water gets dropped into the water pit. We also set up our polluted dirt. We have moved over to a conveyor loader here that is set for allow manual use. And so whenever we have polluted dirt that we want to get rid of, we put it in here. It drops it into right here where the pokey shells are. And then the pokey shells eat the polluted dirt and turn it into sand for us. It's set up that way because we have the door locked so duplicates can't go in here, because these pokey shells just drop the eggs on the ground, which then eventually hatch and replace them, because we don't want to be actively farming them because they're quite a bit violent when there's eggs around, and I don't want my duplicates to get killed. So other than setting up the water and the gas systems, we have started to clear out the map a little bit. We're still working from the top to the bottom up here. We also cut some underneath the base so that we can have some space to work and get back and forth more efficiently. And then, of course, we cleaned out this area so that we could start cracking into the oil biome, and we started to clear out some of the oil biome down here to get a pool of oil. Now that we have a nice sized pool of oil, we can use that to set up our first metal refinery and get our first bit of steel, so we can set up a industrial block and really get into some of the mid-game stuff. Sure, we'll take some eggs. Why not? So the order of business for today is to let the gas and liquids keep processing, and we're going to set up a system down here to create our first batch of steel and our first batch of plastic, so that we can set up a steam turbine and an aqua tuner to do some cooling for doing some mass refining. So I'm going to get a few things set up, and then we'll come back and we'll go from there. I just want to quickly say that the award for duplicants that do not want to cause no problems goes to Teak McSneak, who for 240 days hasn't had a bed in my colony, and so it's just been like, hey guys, it's okay, I'll just sleep here on the storage bins. Poor Teak. I'm making the bed now, and as soon as I start making comfy beds, Teak McSneak, you get the first one. Okay, we're getting started with our metal refining system down here in the oil biome. We're just going to build a little temporary system here to process some iron into steel and get a little bit of petroleum to make some plastics. We're not going to make a very elaborate system because we're just going to remove this and put it into an industrial block that we can cool once we get 1.2 tons of steel from the metal refinery and our first load of plastics. We are going to just deconstruct this. We cut off some of the power down here so that we can use it. I don't need that anymore because that room is a vacuum. So, first thing we need to do is get a liquid pump. We'll use a gold one because it's just going to be, it's not to last long. Oop, I don't want that to be such a high priority. I'm just building with high priority to build a ladder down here because I didn't want any duplicates drowning in the oil. And so it defaults to the last priority you used. Okay, so all we're going to do is bring up oil to the metal refinery, and then we will put a vent to drop the oil back in. And so what we needed was a large pool of liquid that can absorb that heat. So basically it pulls in the oil as coolant. It heats it up a lot while it's making the refined metal, and then it dumps that oil back into this pool. And since this pool is fairly large, that change in heat is not going to notice too much, because we don't want to heat this crude oil up too much, because if it goes over 400 degrees, it turns into petroleum. And if it goes too hot after that, then we end up getting natural gas and sour gas and all kinds of problems down in here, and we don't want to deal with that quite yet. So we need to get power down to this liquid pump. There we go. Now the other ingredients we need for the steel is refined carbon and lime, both of which are made in kilns. And we're just going to put the kilns in down here because we don't mind gaining a bunch of heat in this biome, because they're going to pump out a lot of heat. And again, these are temporary because once we're done, we will get a setup that is permanent for these. And then I want to do a oil refinery. And this one I'm going to put down farther because this is going to produce natural gas when you use it. Let me think how I want to do this. In the past, I've just kind of dumped the natural gas into this biome, but I just finished cleaning it to make it all carbon dioxide, and I don't really want to do with that. So, even though it's a temporary build, I'm going to put in a little liquid lock. I'm going to put the refinery inside a room where I can pump that gas out. Refinement. So for now, all we're going to do is put down a couple of liquid reservoirs where we can store the petroleum for us to move up later. This is probably the least efficient way to make petroleum, so we will not be making a ton of it this way, but um, didn't leave enough space for the pump. Fine. Bottle up there. Guess I get water drop down from this ice biome. Cold damage. Ooh, that salt water's coming out at -10. Why is that happening? Oh, it's just coming through the biome and picking up chill. Okay. So let's put a insulated pipe on this for now. Just until we get past the cold biome. So basically this water was being transported through here at 14 degrees, and as it went up through this cold biome, it transferred heat and it chilled down, and then it would warm back up by the time it got up here. So I didn't notice it because it wasn't coming out here too cold. It also is because this is full, so it's not pumping anymore, and so that water is sitting there for a long period of time. So the water's getting too cold, it's freezing, and it's cracking my pipes. So we'll put some insulated pipes on it for now. And then as soon as I finish working this section here, we'll put a processor to use up some of that salt water to get the water flowing again. Excuse me. Alright, so we'll come back once all this is built, and we'll get some steel production going. We've gotten our temporary steel production set up down here. We have a refinery that is making iron ore into iron, and then iron into steel. For the iron to steel, we also need the refined carbon and the lime. So we have refined carbon being made here, and we have lime being made here from poke shell molds, eggshells, and fossil. Once we get 1.2 tons of steel, which is 12 processes of iron to steel, we'll be able to use that steel to move on to the next steps. This metal refinery is overheating, so we're constantly having to repair it, but it just needs to hold out until we can get this process finished. I have a kiln producing ceramic, so we can start dealing with things with higher temperatures, and then of course we'll have the steel. But basically we just want to produce enough steel so that we can put in an oil refinery so that we can produce enough petroleum so that we can make plastic, and then we can use deconstruct the oil refinery and use the steel from it to make a aqua tuner out of steel and a steam turbine. I can build something this out of a better material so that it doesn't do that. I don't have enough ceramics yet, but once I get the ceramics, I can pull that out, put in a ceramic one. That's probably what the best thing to do is. The ceramics is waiting for clay, I believe. Let's set that on higher priority. Cool. So that's producing ceramics. I did have to make a couple little changes to my power plant here. I had this auto sweeper over 2 blocks, so it couldn't reach this coal generator up top. And then when I moved it over, it couldn't reach the coal storage bin over here, so I had to move that up here. But now everything is working just fine again. And we swapped out our little power transformer for a large one here. So now we have 2 large power transformers running power down into here. Let's see, do we have enough ceramics yet? Yep, so let's deconstruct this. This early game, or early mid-game stuff is a lot of building one thing so that you can deconstruct it and use the materials you just made to make something that can withstand the higher temperatures. But so now with ceramics, this metal refinery has a overheat temperature that's 200 degrees higher. So we'll be able to keep processing our iron. You know, I'm going to do 24 more here. Right, that's enough to do 7. So I want 24 steel. I only need 17 more iron to make that happen. And we'll set this at high priority again. So this room is set up over here. I already vacuumed it out so that once we have steel to put down the oil refinery, everything's in place. It'll start producing oil or petroleum from the oil. And we set it up with a gas pump to move the natural gas that comes off of the oil refinery automatically. I put a little bit of oil down on the floor to help with some heat transfer so that the oil refinery doesn't overheat quite so much. Though honestly, with steel, I think it would be fine either way. Oh, so rock crusher has broken. I have enough lime to do 10 runs, and I have enough carbon. The carbon comes from up here, that's fine. So let's deconstruct this. A lot of times when things overheat and break, it's easier to just deconstruct them and rebuild them, because otherwise when you use the repair material, it ends up retaining the heat and then just breaking again. So if you have buildings that keep breaking, just ooh, I'm out of gold. How's that even happen? Oh, because I still have the smooth hatches turning it into refined gold. I have 60 tons of gold, but no gold amalgam. That's fine. Let's see. We want to... I just need to get through a couple more processes of lime. I guess what I could do is put this somewhere where it's not so hot. I have a spot up here that's convenient. Yeah, let's put it right up here. We've gotten our first bit of steel constructed. We're almost at 1.2 tons. Used a tiny bit of steel to make this oil refinery, which we're going to set at a higher priority so we can see it working before we end this episode. But so we have everything we need to start making an industrial block where we have cooling so that we can make machines like the metal refineries that can run forever without overheating our base. And so next episode, that'll be our focus, getting that all set up. But so what the next stage is this oil refinery is producing petroleum from the crude oil. So we have set up here, I have 2 reservoirs, so that'll do 10,000 kilograms of petroleum, which will be more than we need. We'll start producing some plastic. So the combination we need to use is, we're going to use a thermal aqua tuner, which means we need 1.2 tons of steel. And then we need steam turbine, which means that on top of the refined metal, we also need plastic. And to make the plastic, we will need to set up some polymer presses, which we're going to make out of steel so that they do not overheat, and they can produce this plastic from the petroleum that we've done. So we'll get all that set up in the next episode. We're already getting close to 30 minutes on this one, so I hope you enjoyed watching it. I hope you're learning some stuff, maybe. I don't know. And I hope to see you in the next one. Bye-bye.